Welcome back to Matriarch Alchemy. I'm Allie.
And I'm Amanda. Today we have a special guest, Anna Goff. Welcome, Anna.
Thank you.
Thank you for talking with us.
Of
Anna
course.
is a women's coach. She's helping wives and stay at home parents have better financial security and to be better prepared in cases of divorce where maybe the power dynamic is one sided. So, Anna, why don't you first tell us about what you're doing and how you stepped into this role?
Yeah. So the key obviously is not to get divorced, but oftentimes I talk to women who, because the power dynamic is so unbalanced, that they feel like that's the only way that they can actually have equality in their finances. And that is what I have set out to really help people to understand and to help eliminate things like that from happening. So I think the first step is preparation. So I know Allie is engaged and we've talked about this a little bit, and just having these financial conversations before you go into a marriage, before you have that commitment, so that you guys know where your money origin story lies. And that often is how we deal with each other. And we just think like, oh, that's just how it is. My dad gave my mom an allowance. And so that's what I will do if my wife ever stays home. Right. Where,
Mm.
the woman could be coming from a completely different dynamic. Maybe both parents worked, maybe money was openly spoken about, or the other way. And so it can really cause some strife right away if you
Mm.
don't have these conversations. So it's really important to just kind of figure out that and then decide what you want it to look like. So there's no right or wrong answer. I have an opinion on how things should be set up, but if someone else has
Same.
something that works for them, then absolutely you should do it, but you should both be on the same page. So I started coaching women after I went through a divorce, and really I was a stay-at-home mom for 15 years and really uncovered some huge holes that were in my financial plan, things that I never talked about. I was married for 18 years and our financial dynamic was off in a lot of ways. But there were things that were assumed that shouldn't have been. There were things that we never spoke about. And
Mm.
there were times throughout our marriage where I felt like it was very lopsided. And then I would feel guilty for buying a t-shirt at Target, and then criticism of like, what were you buying, what were you doing, where did you spend this
Oh my
money,
gosh.
right? And so it wasn't necessarily that either one of us were doing anything wrong. It was that we just didn't know how to communicate about it. We didn't have ground rules, we didn't have goals. His goals were different than my goals, and we never talked about it. So we weren't ever on the same page. And I think a lot of couples go through marriage kind of not being on the same page when it comes to
Yeah.
money.
I would totally agree with you there. I think that's a really hard thing that people do in the early part in the beginning. So, Allie, what are your questions as you're approaching thinking about getting married when it comes to prenups and talks and planning? Like, do you feel like you guys are really being able to talk everything out, have good disclosure?
I think we both, and this is just from my experience as like seeing women that I look up to in my life who have experienced these things, is, I'm an open book. We need to communicate about our finances and figure out our best plan of action on how we're going to go about this. But I might be lucky in that. And so, what would be something that you guys feel like would be advice that you do want to give 20 something women who are getting into this thing we call marriage?
Hmm. Well, for me, I think as someone who's been divorced, the way that, and Amanda, you can probably speak to this too, but the way that you approach a relationship is so completely different. There's not that, like, I have to pretend to be something that I'm not, and hopefully they choose me. And
Right.
there can be that when you're young and you're like, I just want to get married. I hope they pick me. I hope they propose. I hope they do all this. Well, when you've been married before, you're like, okay, if everything's not on the same page, I don't want you to propose. Like, please run away.
Good.
Leave.
We're good. Yeah. And so I think like that is different. And that's something that, there's not this facade of something. There are people that I have heard about that get married and they don't know that their partner has student loan debt, credit card debt, Like
Mm.
all of these things, you are taking that on when you marry that person. If there's not
Yeah.
full financial transparency, which is why I like a prenup, even if you don't go through with the prenup, the process of the prenup, the financial disclosure is so important. And so you need to
Yeah.
know where you
Yeah.
stand as you're going
So
into it.
are you able to go a little bit more into exactly like what a prenup is and how you go about it and how it does kind of give that disclosure or
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. Well, what a lot of people don't understand is you have a prenup, whether you have one or not. It's just with the state that you get divorced in. So not even the state you get married in. Say you got married in Colorado. I lived in Colorado when I got married, but I got married in California. But then I moved across the country. I lived in Pennsylvania and then South Carolina, and I was divorced in South Carolina. So,
Mm.
as you can imagine, the laws being, and this is not to be political, but being a Southern conservative state versus California, for instance, the laws are very different and they change based on who's in
Mm.
office. And so there are certain
Yeah.
states that are trying to get rid of no fault divorce. There are certain states where you can't get divorced if you're pregnant. There are certain states where you have to wait a year and live separate and apart, which South Carolina and North Carolina are both those states. You have to live separate and apart for 1 year before you can file for divorce.
Mm.
I think in North Carolina, if adultery is committed, your husband can actually bring you to the steps of the courthouse and beat you. So I'm not even kidding. And so,
Oh, wow.
so we need to know what we're signing up for when we get married, right? And so you have a prenup and it's whatever state you get divorced in. So I always say, like, would you rather the state write your prenup or do you want to write your prenup yourself? And it's just the outline of your marriage. It's like going through financial disclosure. How do we want things to look? Talking about things like, what if we're dealing with aging parents? Do they move into the house? Do we pay for their care? What happens if somebody loses a job? What happens, and it's just like kind of playing out scenarios, and you can go as in depth as you want. Hello Prenup is a company that I partner with and I love them. I'm friends with the CEO. She's amazing. And one of the things they talk about is embryos. So embryos can be a really big deal in divorce because for men, they don't have that clock like women do. If a couple has created embryos together and then they get divorced, that is the woman's only chance to have a child. But maybe he doesn't want to have a child with her now because they're divorced. So what do you do with those embryos? Is she allowed to then get pregnant and do this on her own? And then what's his responsibility? Is there financial responsibility? Is there not? And then he's got a kid out there. There are all kinds of things that like people can put in a prenup, things that people don't think about.
It's a lot more than just this is mine, this is yours, this is my pre-existing asset. That's what I think a lot of young people think. And there are a lot of the steps of going through those processes really help as kind of like premarital counseling.
Yeah.
Or it gives you the conversation tools to say, well, what would we do in this scenario? And I mean, just by being able to see how a guy talks about that will make you feel more comfortable marrying him or not. Say, can you look at this from a neutral standpoint or, what's the opinion? I think it helps you decide what kind of person that you're going to be dealing with.
Yeah.
I think it's also important to like do those things while you do like each other because you're also going to be more fair and can look at it from a better like third party perspective rather than when like I've seen people get divorced, whether they're 25 or 40 plus, like, there is a lot of hurt feelings that go into that. And I think that causes even more like stress and anxiety for people who do want to get divorced. They just don't want to deal with all of the anxiety and stress of I'm going to have to fight my partner. I'm going to have to fight for this. Like relieving that when you like each other sounds really nice. Not like we're planning a divorce, but we're planning for, hey, anybody can leave anytime, no panic, no worry. That's what I like the idea of.
Well, let's go into one of my questions and on that I think Anna can answer too is like what are red flags of partners that are you're going to have a problem with financially if they don't want to be transparent? Like what are the things that are going to be coming up in this time period for you or for other young people listening like that? really, I think
Mhm.
anyone,
Mhm.
anyone, any
Yeah.
age,
Yeah. Well,
like
one of
what
the
is it that we're looking for that we're like, ooh, this could be
yeah.
a future problem.
Yeah. I think I want to touch on one thing before we move on because I want to make sure that
Mhm.
I do say this. I love the idea of calling it, instead of a prenup, a marital contract, where you revisit your marital contract anytime there's something new, whether someone stays home, whether you buy a business, whether assets change, you win the lottery, whatever it is, it's a marital contract that you and your partner sit down, maybe once a year or every 5 years, you revisit that and you just say, like, is everything in order? And it can be part of the, like,
Mhm.
do I have a trust? Do I have a will? Is all of this in order? Does this still apply? And then you can revisit it. So it's not this like divorce document hanging over your head. It's like, this is our financial picture and this is our marital contract. And we need to make sure we account for all of those things. So
Yeah.
I like thinking of it like that. And I'm actually trying to work with Julia, who's the CEO of Hello Prenup, and like reframing that a little bit, because I do
Mm,
think that feels better to people. And then to your red
yeah.
flag thing, I think if someone's not willing to disclose, um, if they're not willing to disclose debt, if they're not willing to pull their credit, that's something that I think is really important in going into a marriage. Pull your credit and share that with your partner. Even if it's
I
not
totally agree. There can't be
perfect.
mystery debt. I
No.
dated a guy who would not share his credit score with me. Like just in conversation, we had been together for a long time and I was like, that feels weird. At this
Yeah.
point, you should be able to say it. Like even if you have a problem and it's bad, if you had a
Yeah.
bankruptcy, I want to know about it.
So
Like
let's
Yeah.
talk about it.
if we're going to
Right.
be in a long-term relationship, you should be comfortable coming to me to tell me, well, this thing happened,
Mm-hmm.
Well,
or
it's
I'm
like, okay,
struggling with
now,
this, or maybe I need help with this, or
Mm-hmm.
well,
like
yeah.
I think a lot of times, especially there's all people, but men that do not want to admit they maybe made a financial mistake or made
Yes.
a bad investment, and they're embarrassed of that.
Yeah.
But you have to, if you're going to marry someone, you're going to have to be put
Yeah.
that out on the table, and they're okay with it and work through it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's okay. I find that most people are willing to work through those things as long as they're transparent. We're all human. Nobody goes through this life without making a mistake. And, if someone's building a business and maybe, finances fluctuate, or maybe you had a period where you filed for bankruptcy, or you got into too much credit card debt, or you have
Yeah.
student loan debt, or whatever it is, like, okay, let's lay it all out there so that I can make an informed choice before I
Hmm.
move forward and combine finances and combine, it affects your credit score when you marry somebody, right? So, like, make a choice
Hmm.
based on that. But also, like, let's figure out how to do this together and fix it together and move forward together and build each other up and have this beautiful life where, like, money is a part of it. And maybe I'm better
Yeah.
at something than you are. And maybe we can fix this together. And, so it's not all
Yeah.
bad. It can be a
Right.
really great bonding experience to say, like, these are my flaws, or this is my not so shiny part that I'm going to share with you. And then that also says, like, how committed are you going to take this, or are you going to leave it? And it's
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. I mean,
Being
and
vulnerable.
honestly, being that vulnerable with someone and still being accepted and loved is the kind of relationship you're striving for if you're actually going to marry someone.
Yes.
So you should
Yes.
be able to do it. So, I mean, if you can't tell your secret, it's not the right person in my mind. That's just me.
Yeah.
No,
Okay.
I
Was there any
agree.
other red flags about just besides just
Okay, so
transparency?
transparent. I think also any sort of addiction is really a huge red flag, and
Mm,
that's not necessarily about finances, but it it's about secrecy, right? Anytime there's an addiction, it can mimic like adultery, right? Where it's like, is gambling the other woman, is porn the other woman, is
mm,
alcohol the other woman, drugs, whatever it is. And so that um not being honest about those things, and having an addictive personality or being in active addiction can also cause people to do things financially that aren't sound, so
yeah. Good
listening to
show of
that.
integrity.
Right. Right. Well, and then say they need to borrow money for gambling and they're, going behind your back for that, or like they get into debt that's
stealing your
tricky,
money
stealing
for
money,
gambling.
or
that happened to one of my friends.
Hiding money.
right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it kind of goes back to that. Also, spending habits. Like if you guys aren't on the same page with spending habits, and it doesn't mean that you both have to be savers or both, hopefully you're both not spenders, but but knowing, right? Right. Well, if your finances can support that, then maybe it's not bad, but like knowing who, like what your habits are, that's also really important. And if someone is a spender and they don't have it in them to save and you're a saver, that can be a real red flag, because it can just make you feel unsafe all the time, and that's not the kind of environment that you want to create. I don't know. Amanda, do you have any other that you can think of? I mean, I can think of a million red flags in relationships, but I'm trying to think about like in going through the financial part.
I know, I'm trying to think of financial red flags.
Right.
I mean, I just look for dumb decisions with their finances, though. It's like, but that's
it's hard in the beginning. You're having to figure out the transparency part and what someone's spending money on and what, like I think it's more being able to discuss, are you in alignment with what you feel you're comfortable saving and spending and doing all those things with. So also agreeing to make financial decisions with talking to each other.
Yeah.
Now, I realize a lot of older people go and get remarried and they kind of have their finances more separated. And I still think there needs to be a little bit of discussion if you're buying certain things like over a certain dollar amount. And I do believe that dollar amount might change based upon your circumstances. If you say, oh, I'm fine with my boyfriend going and buying a $1,000 thing without asking me. But, if you're in a different, smaller, newer place, young person, maybe your partner spending over $500 is something they needed to bring up with you and say, does this feel okay? So you're not both just spending money willy-nilly without discussing, and then you end up in a
Well, I think there's a difference, though, between like, discussing a situation like, hey, we want to go buy a new dirt bike. Let's discuss it. Versus like, I have to ask permission. And that's where I don't like that, where people are like, I have to ask my husband for permission if I can go and get lunch with you. It's like, I don't like when you have to ask permission versus like a discussion. But maybe that's just a wording but also situational. But I'm like, give me that.
That is a hard place. And I think Anna and I have probably both have experienced that in the past, that kind of financial abuse, and where you have to figure out how you're going to get through that, because you can end up there without realizing that you've ended up there. Like it just can happen to you when you're becoming a stay-at-home parent and you don't have any income anymore. And I would get a lot of flack for making purchases, but they're things that we needed,
right?
Like, oh, I'm not allowed to buy a purse, I'm not allowed to buy shoes,
right? Or things for the kids.
Yeah. And I think when we were really young, it was bad. And then later on, I think he just sort of gave up, realizing
Mine did too.
I just, okay, she does need to just go and buy the kids' school supplies or go do this. Like without him.
Yeah.
I think he just didn't want to complain anymore. Didn't want to deal with it but that was one of the things that I wanted to talk about, was like having more weight in the marriage, or having more control when you don't have income. And one of the things that I would say that I did is I paid the bills. And this made it more transparent for me. So I'm seeing paycheck stubs. In fact, the bank probably thinks my signature is his signature, because I signed all the checks and I put them in the bank. And I could make sure that the deposit amount matched the amount on the check, but also like he was starting to skim. And I was seeing like the withdrawals every week. And like, what is this for?
Right.
Then being able to say, oh, well, that's for this. Well, like, no, it's not, because those receipts are over here on the company credit card. So like keeping yourself in the loop with your finances is one of the things I would say was my biggest way to stay in on top. Yeah. Like you say, hey, I'd
Do the
love to take on
taxes.
the responsibility to, and oh my gosh, be involved with doing your taxes.
Yes.
There's
Don't
so
just
much
sign.
information.
There's so
So
many
much
people that
information.
just sign, or because now with electronic signature, the husband signs and she's never even seen the documents. And I have a friend who's going through a very messy divorce, and her ex
Mhm.
was committing tax fraud on her, and she had to go to the federal courthouse
Yeah.
and testify that she wasn't the one doing this. And stuff like that is very
Yeah.
scary. I love the idea of paying the bills, you know, being a part of the taxes, going to the financial advisory meetings, knowing the passwords to everything, knowing what life insurance you have, knowing all of the documentation, knowing how to access the accounts so that you can get in to any account at any time. It doesn't mean that you need to take money from it or you need to
Right.
be the one, you know, doing the stock trades or anything like that. Like,
It's just
you know, because I
transparency.
think a lot of times guys will be like, well, if you get in there, you're going to mess it up. And I've got a plan, you know? And do you like my voices?
That was funny.
I'm just picturing someone saying that.
It's true. They'll be like, no, you can't get in
They
there. 'Cause,
do.
like, you don't understand. And I've got a plan.
No, I'm just
and
reading.
I'm just doing,
just looking at it.
And I think like, okay, well then please clue me in on this plan, said plan. Let's discuss if said
Exactly.
plan is actually what we want to do. And
Let's
then,
be transparent.
and let's be transparent. And you need, because the other thing is like, if someone were to die or become incapacitated or whatever, where they aren't able to sign their signature anymore, you also need to know all of that information as the partner. You need to be able to move forward, pay your mortgage, pay your bills if something were to happen. And so I think that's really, really important. I also love the idea of a me, and a we account. And I think that really keeps things equal, because it doesn't matter who's earning the paycheck, whether you're a stay-at-home mom or you're a working mom or you're whatever it is. You each have an account that you decide how much money goes into it, and it's the same. So if he makes $1 million a year and you say 10,000, cool, right? And then you can do whatever you want with it. That means no questions. If you want to buy a purse, if you want to buy gifts, if you want to save it, whatever it is, you can do what you want with it. And then
learn how to go on E-Trade.
Right. Do whatever, right? Like if you want to go and grow your accounts and invest it yourself, cool. And then there's the we account that you know, have the bills and whatever it is that you are doing with the family, and you pay everything out of that. Because it's usually I feel like because I'm not earning the same or, you know, whatever, that I can't be an autonomous adult who makes decisions about going to lunch or buying a purse or if you need new shoes. And then you have to go and ask permission to your husband who's making $500,000 a year. And you're like, can I buy a purse? It feels gross. And if he doesn't feel like you should buy a purse because you just bought a purse 3 months ago, why do you need another purse? It's not a partnership. And she feels like it's a parent-child relationship instead of a partnership. You trust her to raise your children, to run the household, to do all of those things, but you don't trust her to go buy a purse. Right. And that happens.
It does feel like
in your mind anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah. I don't want to be treated like a child.
Right. Right.
Interesting.
No, I like that idea with accounts. Do you, Ellie?
I feel like that's the idea that I feel like a lot of young people are doing now. But it's more of like, this is my account, this is where all my paychecks go to, and I get to do whatever the hell I want with my money. But I'll put in the percentage into our shared account that is all like household and all of us stuff.
Yep.
But it's not like we're putting, 10% or 10% into each. It's my account, everything goes into mine, and I put it into our shared account.
Yeah.
And
that's
well, and I do know some people that do that, but the status quo changes if someone is a stay-at-home parent and they're not working, and then you have to consider a different. I think that's one of the things you have to discuss in the prenup stage is how are you planning on handling that, and if someone was staying home, to not lose that autonomy and their ability to feel safe, because this is how you get into abusive situations where you feel like you can't leave. Because I always see women going, oh, I can't leave because I can't afford it.
Right. I guess this is an interesting thing to ask you guys, is this is something that I'm seeing more on like my social media, is young women who are 19, 20 who are saying, oh, my husband retired me at 19.
Ew.
They have nothing in their name. They have no retirement account, which in my mind, if you're retiring, you're getting money still. So like they haven't set up any accounts, but like what are things that you feel like you would be telling those 19, 20-year-old girls who are like, I'm retired, I'm a stay-at-home wife, I'm never going to work. Yet, let's say they don't even have kids yet, not stay at home. Like, what are those financial things you feel like, if you want to do that, what needs to be set up to feel like, you know, appropriate for that situation?
Show me someone at 45 who's saying the same thing, because it doesn't exist. So this whole like young trad wife, you know, culture that you're talking about, it's number one, and this might make some people mad, but they don't have enough life experience to do that. They went straight from their parents' house to their husband's house. Often it's an much older husband who is like, I will take care of you. And they want this like person on their arm to travel with, at their beck and call, right? Like, she's here whenever I need her, right? Then you become owned by this person, like, you know, and it's gross, in my opinion. If you want to do it, number one, like, you need to get some sort of education. You need to have something to fall back on. Even if you're doing it while you're inside of this arrangement or whatever, get an education, learn a skill, you know, start a business, do something, because you're going to need something, especially if you're 19, you don't have kids, you're going to need something to use your brain. Please don't stop using your brain.
You're going to be mentally bored.
You will be miserable, but he had better be paying you a salary, and a good one. He had better be contributing to a retirement account, and you had better have a prenup that says that that money is yours, not his. And half of everything is yours, because you don't have the ability, if you're home for 10, 15, 20 years supporting this man, you do not have the ability to go and start over and make the kind of money that you need to be making to afford the lifestyle that you have. You have to have an agreement. So a lot of times people think the prenup is for like the rich older man. In this case, it is for the young woman who is giving up her entire life, her youth, her fertility, her all of that stuff to this man, to be home for him, to travel and do whatever, cook him sourdough bread and whatever. Like,
Well, and I have no problem against my time as being a stay-at-home mom, but you do have to have certain things in place, you know, and it is to protect from abuse. And that's like what Allie and I's whole thing is that we want young women to be more prepared. Allie knows I never wanted her to pop off and get married really young until she had her own job and has stood on her own 2 feet.
And I've lived on my own.
She graduated from college. She's could go and get her own apartment now and like do her own thing. Yeah, she chose to get engaged now, but at least she has the capability to take care of herself.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, and then make those better decisions. But I went straight from my parents' house at 19, getting married and going and living with a guy to get away from them.
Right.
To get away from my parents.
Right.
And that's a hard situation, right? But I did start working. I didn't have kids for 5 years.
Yeah.
You know, so I mean, I took some time to figure some stuff out for myself, but you still have to keep, you know, your mind fresh and paying attention to all these details.
Yeah. And you always had something going on. You weren't just like, I'm going to stay home and just not do anything except look cute and, you know, make sourdough bread. I mean, you did look real cute. You know, I've known you for a long time, but like, being a stay-at-home mom is a full-time job, and it's the most important job that anyone can ever have. And, you know, it's not saying anything against being a stay-at-home mom. It's not saying anything against choosing to be home. It's just, you have to have things in place to realize that you are taking on a huge vulnerability and a risk in making that decision. And so with that, you have to then have the conversations about how am I going to be protected if I am giving up my, you know, ability to go to college, if I am giving up my ability to work, and all of these
Work
things. Like,
history.
yeah,
Yeah.
retirement, all of
And
it.
your
It's a
ability to
risk.
get hired again when you're in your 40s and 50s is
Yeah.
different, and you're thinking, oh my gosh, did I go to college or I'm out of the workforce? Like
How much did I
it's
miss out
limits
on?
what you can probably just go pop off and do. So you just need to be mindful of that. And like I said, those prenuptial conversations about how you're going to handle it, it should make or break whether or not you marry that person. You need to be prepared. And that's protecting you from getting trapped in a rough situation.
Absolutely.
Well, let's talk more then about divorce or preparations for divorce. So you're stay-at-home mom.
Yeah.
Things aren't going well. Maybe he's cheating. I don't know. So what would you say you can do first to prepare yourself before you ever file for divorce, or even maybe tell him that you want a
No, I'm just
divorce?
kidding.
Shh, don't say it so loud.
Just teasing.
In the closet.
No, yes, yeah, no. Miss Colonel Mustard in the library with the candlestick. So
Storage unit.
yeah. No.
Number one, storage unit.
Now this has turned to
Do you want to know what I started growing in my garden? That's all
Number
I'm
two,
saying.
a hammer.
True crime podcast. No. So the things that I think it's financial disclosure, things that I coach women through is like, make sure you know what accounts you have, because the second the D word comes out, money starts being transferred, hidden, things like that.
Yep.
So learning as much as you can about your financial picture, documentation, conversations, text messages, document behavior. Say someone's an alcoholic, document, when they come home drunk, how often that happens, all of those things. And it can feel really icky because it feels like you're going against your partner. But you have to be prepared, and the person who's the most prepared at mediation or in court wins. And often the stay-at-home mom is at a disadvantage because she doesn't have full transparency to everything. And then she has to spend a lot of money going through discovery, hiring a forensic accountant, doing all those things to even find out what accounts exist. And so if you can do that on the front end, that will save you a lot of time and money. Also kind of think about what you want your future to look like and what you would ask for. So one of the things that I talk to women about a lot of times, because it comes down, divorce is two things. It's money and custody. And that's all. Like, you have to put your feelings aside, keep it technical, right? Like, it doesn't matter if he cheated on you. It doesn't matter if, he is upset about this or that. Like, the court doesn't care about that. They want the facts. And so just try to stick to the facts. One of my clients today told me that she actually found a gray rock jelly cat that she bought because I could keep telling her to gray rock him, and just stick to the facts. And so if you have to run a text message through ChatGPT, if you have to run an email through chat and say, I need to send this to my ex-husband, I don't want it to sound overly emotional, or to my ex, my husband I'm separated from, whatever, I don't want it to sound too emotional, do that. Anything that you need to do to kind of separate a little bit from there. But when it comes to custody, one of the things I often will ask a woman is, can you do more than 50-50 custody and work full time and get back out there and take care of yourself and your home and everything? Because especially if someone was wronged, right? If there was adultery, abuse, or, addiction or whatever, they think he doesn't deserve to have the kids full time, or he doesn't deserve to have custody like I did. He didn't help. He didn't do this or that. And so I always encourage women to think about, like, what's your capacity? And just because he wronged you as your partner doesn't mean he's not a good dad, and doesn't mean that he doesn't have the right to be a parent, right? And so that can be really tricky too. But you've got to rebuild your whole life, and you deserve to have a life and a future. And so sometimes 50-50 is the best thing for you, even as hard as it is.
Well, and can I add to that sometimes that's the thing that opens their eyes to what it's actually like to take care of the kids that much and to create more appreciation for what you're doing. I've seen women get their kids back after giving 50-50 because they're like, oh
I
gosh,
can't
this
do
is
it.
a lot of work.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're
Yeah.
like, you can have it. And I'm like, oh, because if it's like a 2-year-old and
Yeah.
you've never dealt with it before, it's going to be a very eye-opening experience for him.
Yeah. I love that my ex had to take my daughter to an 1.5-hour orthodontist appointment today. And I'm in Colorado hanging out. You know what I mean?
And you're like, oh, well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And in the middle
So
of your workday where they used to just let stay-at-home mom do it. Now I'm
Yep.
like, not all these places are open. You know, if you could take your kids to the doctor, it doesn't happen outside of your business hours. You have
Absolutely
to
not.
arrange. You got to figure it out.
Yeah.
Maybe you need a babysitter if you want to go to dinner.
Yeah. Or sitting
I
in
don't
car
think
And
lines.
that's
like a lot of
not
people
throw on your ex. It's
or
you have to
especially
go get a
dads
sitter.
like
Sorry,
realize
go
like
ahead.
I don't think a lot of dads like recognize the mental load that moms, even
Mhm.
stay-at-home moms or not stay-at-home moms,
Yeah.
that they take on as the sole like
Primary.
parent that everybody goes to. Yeah, the primary parent where every
Mhm.
teacher calls, every
Mhm.
doctor calls. You know, it's hard for I think them to get that like mental load and where the line is.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And how you can be so stressed at the end of the day and why don't you want to hang out with me? And it's like, I just need 5 minutes like by myself because I've
Yeah.
had a lot of shit to do.
Yeah.
You
I
know?
can remember saying like I've been mommed to death, you know, when the kids were little, and I would be like, I feel like I've been stung by bees all day. I just need I needed to go for a walk or I need a minute. And that feeling is exhausting. And it's something that most of the time women take on, that primary parent role, that, you know, the default parent for everything. They keep a running list in their head of like when doctor's appointments need to happen, when, you know, the milk needs replaced, you know, when
Everything you have in your
shoes,
pantry.
yeah, when you have to go through all of the clothes and say, okay, we need another size or we need XYZ, like all of those things can really put a ton of stress on a woman. And then even if she's working, often she's still the default parent. And so that's another thing, another conversation to have. There are some really good books about that. One is Fair Play. There's also like a video or a Netflix, I think, documentary on that where you can actually talk about the mental load with your partner. And there's like a game that you can play where you divide it up. And so one of the things, like one of the examples is like one person's in charge of trash. And so they do everything with the trash. They go around and make sure the trash is all, you know, collected when the bins are full. Then they also clean out the fridge, throw that in the trash. Then they take the trash to the outside trash can. Then on trash day, they take it out and then they bring it back in and all of that. So like literally no one else has to think about trash, right? Because even if you're like, well, I took out the trash. Yeah, but did you empty all the trash cans in all the house? You know, did you clean out the fridge and throw away all the old stuff that needs thrown out? You know, because then she doesn't get to take that off of her list because there are other components to that, right? And so I think sometimes we think we're helping or they think they're helping. And it's just one tiny little piece where she's just like, I'll just do it all because it's easier for me than to tell you to do everything.
Yeah.
I'm glad they're starting to talk about mental load online a lot now. And I'm seeing like some men's eyes are being open because they used to always do that. Oh, well, she just needs to give me a list, or I don't know what we need for the grocery store, or I don't know what needs to be done. I actually just had a conversation with my 23-year-old son about this because I was like, do you have to realize the point is that you notice all the things? You know, that's when you're helping. It's not, oh, I'm going to run to the store for you because you gave me a list and asked me to do it. It's that I stopped on the way home from work and got trash bags and paper towels and picked up some lunch meat because I knew we were out.
Right.
You know, that's helping carry the mental load. And I think that's finally what some men are becoming aware of is that if you're going to help.
Yeah.
Well, I think these amazing women, though, have raised these daughters who have, and especially boys. I mean, I think they're getting better, but they're raising these daughters who are like, okay, I've heard from my mom and my grandma, the mental load, not doing that. I'm not dealing with financial, you know, hiding stuff. We're going to be transparent. And so I do start to feel like I'm seeing that shift with like my generation or maybe even slightly older, but you know, hopefully these conversations are kind of changing that for younger people.
We're evolving.
Yeah.
That's the whole point of having kids, is you're teaching them to be better than you were, right?
Right. And you're
do better.
fantastic, Allie.
Thank you.
And I love that you
Thank
can
her.
learn from your ancestors, you know, and that's what, you know,
Right.
how things get better. And
Right.
it's how we can prevent abuse and how we can
generational trauma.
and preventing people from feeling trapped
Right.
within a marriage, you know, like there should be an equal balance of power one way or another. And I think that you can make that happen with these conversations and transparency and carrying the mental load.
Yeah. And creating a beautiful relationship that feels really good and safe for both people. Because, you know, we talk a lot about the load, the mental load on women, you know, what women are carrying and stay-at-home moms and all of that. But like it's a lot for the man too. If he's providing all of the financial stability and holding the household, that's a lot, you know? And so understanding that both people have a role to play, whether it's a stay-at-home parent or not. Like men do things better in some areas than women do, and women do things better in some areas. And so to just really honor each other as men and women, and why we chose to come together to be partners, and how we can really create a beautiful relationship that's based on honesty and vulnerability and trust and love and friendship and passion and intimacy and all of the things that, all of the components of a relationship. But the resentment that can be caused when you don't take the time to do the work and do the things that we've talked about today, you know, that can end it so fast. And so it's just really important that we can be honest about what we want in a relationship and really grow together and create whatever it is that feels really good and safe for you.
Yeah.
That's great.
I guess I feel like I wanted to ask you guys on maybe raising like the children, as in your daughters or your sons. How are we fostering, you know, your sons to be good men in those respects, or how you've shown them how they should treat their partners? I think we did touch on that one of the last times, but
yeah, I think teaching them to be vulnerable, teaching them to be okay with having emotion and feelings, and also to have responsibility. So often we will give responsibility to our daughters because we know that they can handle it, and then we just do things for our sons. We're like, ugh, he can't handle that, or he doesn't know how to put the chips away, or he doesn't know how to do, and we like baby our sons and teach our girls. And so I think the important thing is that we're teaching our children how to be productive members of society, because the goal is not to keep them at home. The goal is to send them off on their own, where they don't traumatize another human and they can actually like live and be productive, right? And so you're doing your child a disservice if you do everything for them. And give the boys in your life just as much credit and just as much responsibility for doing things inside the home. Don't just send them out to mow the yard. Make them make dinner. Make them, you know,
laundry.
Do the laundry. Think about things within the home, because the gender roles are sort of dissipating and becoming a little bit more blurred. And I think it's really, I mean, think about what kind of woman they will attract if they can do those things, right? Like, you're going to have a way better daughter-in-law if your son doesn't suck at doing all that stuff, and you can, like, you know.
He's actually a good partner.
Yeah.
Wow, he's an adult. That's attractive.
Right. And also not like praising people for doing things to just like that are just part of being an adult or just part of living, right? Like, oh my gosh, he took out the trash.
He did the dishes.
Yeah. Oh, congratulations, right? Like,
awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you for, you know, contributing.
Yeah.
Like everyone else does.
Right.
Won an award.
Yes. But
your sticker.
I'm so proud of these kinds of conversations because, we can pick on guys a lot, but really what we want is for um to have great relationships. Like we
Yeah.
all love love. We're all in, great relationships that feel really good and warm and supportive and all of that. And we've all had relationships that don't feel that way. And so, when we talk about this stuff, we're talking from a place of like, this is what we've had that is maybe negative. This is what we want or have or can see that are important things for someone to have in a relationship. Because ultimately, like, we're better together. We really are.
Exactly. I totally agree with that. And I'm really proud of how well you've dealt with your divorce and with grace. So
Thanks.
it's nice to see you in a great, happy place.
Thank you, my dear. Thank you. And
All
same for
right.
you. And I'm so happy that you're in a great place and Allie's in a great place. And so
We're all living the
we're all
dream.
doing.
Yeah. I'm a proud daughter. I get to see my mom become an even better person as she gets older every year, and it's like amazing to see that to me. So
Oh,
That's so
thank
good.
I love
you.
that.
I love that too. I can say that. I can say that about your mom too, because I've known you guys for a really long time. And just in seeing, not to embarrass or make you teary-eyed here now that Allie did that to you, but it's been really fun, honestly, to like grow from meeting each other when I was like, gosh,
You had a newborn
29,
baby.
29
You had a
when
newborn
we
baby
met.
when I
I
met you.
did.
She was so
She
tiny.
was so tiny. And, here I'm 45. We've known each other for a really long time and we've evolved through a lot of life together. And so it's really awesome. Now, here we are in later stages of life, midlife, and looking at who you are and who your children are and all of the things that you've been through. But like, you are such an awesome human and like you are the woman that like I saw you as then, but like so confident and secure in your skin and like to see you happy with someone, and it's just such a blessing to be able to like witness your transformation.
Thank you. I feel like that. I feel like
Yeah.
I'm my butterfly stage.
Now that my
That's
vein is
good.
popped out in my head from the
We're getting
We're
all
all crying
emotional.
today.
I know.
Don't cry.
I
No
know.
It's a
crying.
I know.
full moon this week. I don't know what's happening.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for talking with us. This is
Thank you.
Matriarch Alchemy.